Good afternoon to our viewers in our Facebook group. My name is Karen Seitz, and I'm the lead teacher for the relationship course at A New Life Center and also the administrator for the Facebook group Authentic Intimacy for Married Women. And today I have a very special guest with me, McCall Barron, and she is a graduate of our relationship course at A New Life Center. So we're going to talk with her today and get her experience of going through the relationship course and where she's at now and the things that she's gotten to overcome, and even some of the struggles or challenges that she had with our 3 principles and the framework of the relationship course. So just as a quick reminder, our framework for our Facebook group and for the course that we teach at A New Life Center, the first principle is that you are responsible for your happiness, that no one can make you happy, that happiness is an inside job, and we have to do the work to uncover that and find it within ourselves. And the second principle is that the only person you can change is yourself. A lot of times we get caught up in thinking that we can change our partner or our spouse. And that's where we get so frustrated and lost in our issues and problems, because we really only have the control to change who we are and to change our own circumstances. And the third principle is that authentic intimacy comes from having a relationship with yourself and feeling good about who you are. That when you have that relationship with yourself and you feel good about yourself, then you can drop your walls and begin to share who you are in your relationship and with your spouse. And that's where intimacy builds from. So McCall is going to share a lot of her experience today in learning that framework. And McCall, do you want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, guys. My name is McCall, and I think it was 6 months ago maybe that I started the program. And it took about 3 months to complete it. And it was the most challenging and awesome and life transforming work I've ever done. And I've done a lot of work. It's totally given me a new life, a new experience of myself and my happiness, and a new marriage. So I'm excited. I hope it brings a lot of people hope, because in the beginning when I talked to Karen, it's like, all those principles sound amazing, they make logical sense, but it's hard to believe because you've never experienced it before that they're actually going to work and they're going to make a difference. But without fail, it always works. And when I use the tools I learned, I'm always blown away by my husband's response to me. It just keeps getting better and better. And at this point, it's just overwhelming in a good way. What I get to experience in my marriage. So I want to share more of that with everybody.
Thank you, McCall. We're really excited to have you on today. And I know that you're going to be able to help a lot of women in our group just by sharing from your experience. So without any further ado, let's just jump in and get started. So what were the issues and challenges that you were experiencing in your marriage that pushed you to come into the program? What was going on when you first started?
So the space I was in when I first started was a little bit of like an emergency. Like I need to do something now or we're in trouble. And I wasn't happy in my marriage. I didn't really know how to fix it. I had tried a lot of things to fix it. Yeah. I considered myself a good person, a good partner, a good communicator. And so considering myself as I'm pretty good, I try really hard. I try to be generous and kind, and his behavior sucks sometimes, I thought I was doing everything I could to make it work. So it didn't seem like the problem was with me. So we would just have arguments. We would trigger each other to get upset. And then he wasn't willing to talk about it. Once he was triggered, he kind of cut off communication, and it felt like there was no access to even solving it. And then he'd get back to normal, and I'd be sitting here like bitter, like, well, we never talked it out. So there was a lot of stress around money and finances, a lot of stress around our sex life and intimacy. It just kind of seems like everything became a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are what I remember mostly, was
Yeah.
just like, I don't know if this is what I signed up for. I don't know if I can spend a lifetime with this. It's not terrible, but you know, what do I want to give my children? What do I really want for my life? And it's not showing up.
Yeah.
So I knew that for me, whether I chose to stay or whether I chose to leave, I needed to be empowered in myself and know for certain that I was proud of who I was and that I was responsible. So I knew it started with me deep down. And I'm really glad I did the program, because now I feel like me doing this work did create all of the new wonderful changes that we've experienced.
And so what I'm hearing from you, McCall, is that you were really at a place where you were so uncomfortable and really stuck in your challenges that you knew you had to do something. That the pain of where you were at was greater than the pain of moving forward and actually changing. Is that correct?
Yep.
And why was that so important for you to be at that place where you were experiencing that kind of challenge and knew you had to do something? Why did you need to be at that place?
I think for me, it was my sign that I was going to commit to following through to myself, to doing something about it, not just trying a new tool, but actually, you know, on the other side of the program, on the other side of whatever I needed to do, I needed to walk away with, I'm happy with my life, I'm happy with myself, I'm at peace. And I want a relationship and a marriage that I'm proud of and that, you know, that I enjoy.
Yeah. And so you said that you were at a place where you didn't just want to try another tool. So I'm curious if you could share with our audience and our viewers, what were some of the things that you had tried to fix those challenges and problems?
That's a good question. How long do we have? I remember one of our first conversations, it was like, well, how many coaches do you have, McCall? Like,
yeah.
I had gotten coaching, I had done communication courses, seminars, programs, I had done relationship books, and, you know, we had like tons of different coaches for different things, you know, the money coach, the sex coach, the life coach, the communication coach, we had all these agreements that we made, which are great. Agreements are wonderful, but that doesn't solve my emotions, and it doesn't solve what I'm reacting to, and it doesn't solve me making him feel bad about himself and then acting out. So I had tried a lot of things that are good. I still do those things. But I was trying to use the tools to manipulate or force an outcome. Instead of the difference that I got in this work was, so for example, like if we were in an argument, I'd be really upset and triggered.
Mm-hmm.
But I would use the words of like being calm and rational and good and logical and nice. And what I got in this work was first slowing down and really looking at my heart and my emotions and sorting myself out first, like not ignoring or pushing my emotions under the rug to try to do the right thing or fix it. And now I can use those tools. Well, I don't have to, but I can use the tools from a place of I'm at peace and I'm not blaming him and I'm not being nasty and I'm not playing victim, you know, underneath it. I'm not trying to suppress my emotions if I'm sad or upset. I actually get to look and honor those and sort myself out and then come to him when I'm at peace. with myself. So it was a totally different mindset that I was trying to use the tools from. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And so in all the things that you were using when you were coming from that manipulative, using them more to manipulate, which I completely resonate with, because all the things that I had tried in my marriage, which were very similar to McCall, coaching, therapy, all the relationship books, trying different communication techniques. I was coming from a place still of wanting to change my husband, and it couldn't work because we can't change anybody else. So McCall, what was the switch for you to realize, whoa, I really do only have control over myself? And why did that make such a big difference than what you were doing previously?
And I want to say too, I didn't intend to manipulate.
Yeah.
It's not something I meant to do, and it's not something I realized I was doing. It's not until I could discover that in a safe space with you and in the program that I could own it. So my intentions aren't to be a horrible person to my husband, but it comes out in survival, and in not having these tools. So the switch, well, it was actually really relieving because when I realized that my happiness is not actually coming, I should say my unhappiness is not actually coming from him and his behavior.
Yeah.
That's what I think, what I thought. That was like, oh, so I can actually be happy and at peace for myself. And that's regardless of whether his behavior changes. And that sounds crazy to most people, I tell that too. But it's true. And that gives me all the power, because then I don't have to change him. And the cool surprise I got was once I was showing up happy and responsible for my happiness and managing my emotions and my reactions with these tools, I was already whole and complete. And then he actually started changing his behavior. So like the results I was trying to bring about the whole time, he just naturally did when there wasn't this tension, when I wasn't trying to change him or judge him or make him wrong, he naturally wants to show up as good and kind and generous and providing. And so it was almost like what I was trying to force happening, I was sabotaging actually getting it.
Oh, good point. Yeah. And because I think one of the things you really began to realize and know for yourself is the more, and I also want to emphasize what McCall had shared, that when we're using the tools or things that we've learned in relationship courses or in therapy or in reading books, and we're trying to change our husband, we aren't doing it from a malicious place. And I'm meaning to do this and manipulate. It's coming from an unconscious place within us that we can't see, because our mind plays tricks on ourselves to where we can't see what we're doing. And so we have to be able to slow down and oftentimes have a guide or a teacher to show us how we're showing up that we can't see. And so, McCall, I remember in the beginning there, like most of us, myself included, there's some resistance to knowing that you have the control and power in a relationship with a good man, that when you just work on yourself and you change how you're showing up, then it gives them the space then to step up and change. And what was some of your resistance to that, to knowing that you were the problem and that you had to be the solution if you were going to experience change and have the marriage that you always wanted or always dreamed that it would be?
The first 6 weeks of the program,
Mm-hmm.
they were so hard. They were so hard. So if anybody's in the program, and is experiencing a hard time, keep going. It gets so much better. But my resistance was so strong those first 6 weeks. And it felt like how it showed up for me was I felt extremely judged. I felt like, you know, the low self-esteem that we struggle with.
Yeah.
Because I was discovering all these things about myself that I was not proud of.
Yeah.
And I still don't, but I didn't want to know that the things I was blaming him for was my projections of what I was doing. I mean, that blew my mind. Like, no way on earth would I have ever said, like, agreed that I was the one doing those things. And it took the willingness to love and honor myself, to know that I want to know my truth, and I want to be the person I'm proud of. And I don't want to do those things because, you know, when I look at the arguments, even when I won, I never felt good or proud at the end. I never liked who I was being. It was like, well, I won that one. You know, it feels yucky. You know, it's not freedom and love and play. And you can tell that there's walls between you and them. It doesn't feel restored. And so the more that I kept letting go of my resistance and accepting things about myself, being willing to see a new perspective, and going and sharing with my husband, I'm sorry, I've realized that I'm really in relationships for myself. I mean, I can't remember all the things that I learned, but it was just, you know, yeah, I am selfish and I do blame you, and I'm judging everything that you do, and that's not what I'm committed to. He, as a good man, they like really don't hold grudges, you know. He was like, wow, thank you. That made a difference for me, you know, and it was a brand new moment, you know. So there was a lot of resistance. There still is if I get triggered and have to own something. But I know that when I take 100% responsibility and I own my nasty parts, they go away, and I'm proud of myself and I love who I'm being, and it's getting mirrored back to me by how people are interacting with me. Does that answer?
It does. You did amazing. And so what was the switch for you? What helped you to open up to the concept that being a woman with a good man who has her walls up, that when you step up and you change, that actually sets the tone for a new experience in your relationship, and your husband then begins to step up and follow your lead? What was the switch that helped you to really open up to that and embrace that?
I never realized this. It's going to make me cry. But my switch was doing it for me. You know, and I feel like a lot of women can probably relate to this, but I always felt like self-care was hard for me. I always kind of gave of myself in all these other ways and put myself last. And always said yes to too many things. And, you know, it was like always for somebody else. And I think the switch was, I'm loving myself. And this is about my happiness and about knowing who I am inside of a relationship for me. And giving that gift to myself had me let go of like having to force that my marriage looked a certain way in order to get something else someday. You know, it was inauthentic. And when I did it for myself, for my own peace of mind, for my own healing and happiness, that's what gave me the space to keep going. Because I just kept reminding myself, I'm not triggered because of him. I'm not unhappy because of him. It's something in me. And that's what I wanted to give myself the gift of actually working through.
Yeah. So you began to experience the changes in yourself, and obviously then in your marriage, which we're going to get to in a moment, when you made that shift of actually doing it for just you and the experience of yourself. And when you had that shift, I think you said in about week 6 or 6 weeks into the program or the course, is when that started to happen. So how did you recognize that? What was the difference once you saw, okay, I'm doing this just for me, and you made that switch? What changed after that? And your experience of knowing you're the problem and taking responsibility for your happiness, what changed?
Gosh, a lot changed. I was proud of myself, which is so cool. Like, I haven't been able to say that my whole life. It's always been, I've done this accomplishment, I have to like try to or prove something, to be proud of me. So I was proud. I started using the tools naturally. I started noticing that things weren't quite as much of an emergency. Like, I didn't experience stress and overwhelm and being drained. I always felt like drained by certain things. And those started going away. I started appreciating my husband, and his behavior started changing. I noticed that things I'd get triggered by or problems we had, like in intimacy, I'd be like, well, Karen and I haven't worked on this one yet. I don't know how it's going to go. And I was just like, but I trust that I can have self-awareness, and I'm just going to show up. And it went great, and I was a new person. I was able to handle things differently. Gosh, so many other things changed, but
yeah,
the first things that come to mind.
And is it like something you had to force or like constantly be on your case to do, or did it start to just unfold naturally?
It did start to unfold naturally. Sometimes I was like, I'd pick up my weapon to go blame him again and be like, I see what I'm doing. I really don't want to do that. It's not going to turn out good. Sometimes I'd even do it, and I'm like, see, I don't like doing this. And so it was just like, okay, I'm just going to take a minute and collect myself and be honest with myself, and then go take responsibility, because it's so much easier. There was a couple times when we were going into an argument, and we could tell, the tension was there.
Sure.
And I went into the other room, and I said out loud to myself, I was getting myself a snack, so I'm talking to myself while I'm, and I'm like, I have all the responsibility in the relationship because he's a good man and I'm a woman. And I knew that if I went in and just said something simple to clean it up, he would change like that. And I had to decide, was I going to be right about it, or was I going to go have like a loving experience?
Wow.
It was a tug, because you really want to be right about it. But I went in and I was like, I'm so sorry, whatever it was. I realized that it was coming across like I was blaming you for our finances. I was blaming you. I was blaming you. Yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry. That I know that it's my responsibility, and we're in a partnership or whatever. And he was just like, oh, thanks. That made the difference. And it changed in a moment. So the more I started doing it in little instances, the more I was realizing my power. So like focusing on me and doing this program wasn't giving up my power to change my life or my marriage. It was actually embracing my power and learning how to use it for good. And I just had never been taught how men work. I had never been taught that I'm emasculating. Like, I had never been taught that I was playing victim. I didn't mean to be. But once I saw it, it just became natural to use it more and more. And then, men just do stupid things sometimes. And I've learned that. Stupid things,
Yeah.
they always
Yeah.
have a good reason. But
That we all have flaws and none of us are perfect. And yeah.
what's so cool is they've even happened recently, but I don't have a negative reaction anymore. It's just not there. And what's cool is I know it's all going to work out. I know I'm going to be okay. And so there's nothing to fix.
Yeah. It's like you said, it used to feel like your relationship was such an emergency and the problems and challenges in it were such an emergency. And it sounds like you slowed down enough in yourself and you're trusting yourself and you know who you are, that's allowing you to realize that I often say marriage is a journey or a marathon. We're in it for the long haul. And when we know how to navigate it and we have the tools, then it makes it so much easier to just keep moving forward, and you can just take it one stride at a time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the things you said, marriage is like this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, certain topics that are hard topics. And I used to compare myself to like this ideal who I'm supposed to be. And I used to think marriage was supposed to look a certain way. And I used to think men were supposed to be a certain way. We're supposed to provide something specific. And now that I've accepted that life and marriage and me are like this, my peace of mind and my happiness doesn't have to ride the roller coaster. And that's what shifted. So I could show up and still be me and know I was going to be taken care of and create that for myself, take care of myself. And then we just navigate this.
Oh, good for you.
And so, once we stopped thinking that it had to look a certain way, and if it didn't, something was wrong, it actually didn't become such a big deal. So that was cool.
That makes sense. And so you've said a couple times today that as you begin to take responsibility and see yourself as the problem and have the willingness and courage to go in and look at that, your husband's behavior changed. So what are some of the things that maybe first, some of the challenges you had before going through the course and working on yourself, and how you and your husband and how you've seen those things change? And I have to say really quick, because I had the honor of being able to talk to McCall's husband shortly a couple months ago, and he told me that the changes that he's seen in McCall and the changes that have happened in their marriage just by her going through this program and doing this work were nothing short of miraculous. And that's such a testament to you, McCall, and how hard you worked and how you just dove right in of just like, I'm doing this, I'm going for it. So I just wanted to say that, because that's really all because of you and what you were willing to do for yourself and then bring into your marriage. So what were some of those things that you were really struggling with him that now you've seen change?
Yeah.
And he didn't do this. He didn't go through this program. He didn't do this work, right?
That blows my mind. Because I was trying to get him to, he needs it. One of the things, before I go into some specific examples, is I was just reading about like long-term and short-term effects of emasculation on men. Some of them were that they won't trust us. They will compete with us instead of appreciate us, and uplift us. And there were others, but those really stood out to me because I can tell that those things, like what I'm hearing my husband say about me, from others to others, like not even him telling me, but from I'm hearing from other people.
Wow.
So from him, he's like, I respect and admire you so much. You blow my mind. I mean, it's just amazing the feedback he's giving me. It's overwhelming.
Wow.
And I'm almost like, I don't deserve all that, but it's so easy to have gotten that out of him. I wasn't trying, but it's just amazing. His love, his thoughtfulness, tiny notes. He'll call me, he'll text me messages. I mean, it's like we're in the honeymoon stage now.
Wow.
And so before, let's see, so he wouldn't keep agreements. So he'd break agreements, and then he'd kind of get weird and defensive and upset if we had to talk about him. So we couldn't talk about money. Sex always became an issue. Sometimes other topics became an issue. He was actually not performing well in his job either. So his financial provision, he wasn't working hard. And he wasn't providing for our basic needs. I had no idea. That's all him, right? I had no idea I could have such an impact on that. Because that's totally turned around. Like, he got a new job. He's working very hard. He's providing for all our needs. Those hot button issues, when I actually use the tools from this work, and I stay grounded and self-aware in myself, and I don't blame them, and I take responsibility, I've learned that I'm actually a leader in the relationship. And he will gladly follow suit in taking responsibility. But if I'm blaming or accusing him, he has no choice but to, be defensive and protect himself. So, he used to leave when we couldn't talk something through. And it got to the point where I was actually like, it's not okay. You can't walk out on our family and not communicate about where you're at.
Yeah.
He didn't come up anymore. He's the one saying, I need to go sort myself out. And he takes responsibility, and he comes back and just communicates vulnerably. So, he's become more intimate. He's become very vulnerable with me. Like he shares the most intimate things from his heart. It's like a pure little boy. I mean, it's like, it just amazes me that he would trust me in that way to open up and totally be defenseless, like no guard up. And sex has changed. It's become a lot more fun. And his wanting to provide, whether it's intimacy or financially or even emotionally, honey, you work so hard, what can I do for you? Or bringing me chocolates and flowers for no reason. Those are the things on the movies.
Yeah, and so what you're saying is those things were not happening.
There, no way. No way. Sex used to be gosh, I feel like I'm alone. I used to feel like I was alone. He would check out to video games. He would check out to binging on food and sugar. I'd be like, can we hang out? And he'd be like, and do what? There wasn't, our together time wasn't fun. It wasn't connected. We'd go out to eat, he'd be on his phone. So it was almost like he was trying to get away or escape. And now he's showing up, he's connected, he's talking, he's listening to me, asking about my day. It's the little things like that, but those are big.
They are big. And so how would you help our viewers understand how those changes you're seeing in your husband are a result of you working on yourself?
So I would have never believed you. I would have been like,
yeah,
you have a good husband. Mine is not. I never thought he was capable. That's so sad.
Yeah, I understand that.
He was capable of being this. He's the man of my dreams. He's everything I wanted, and he's never been that. And how I know that it's because of my changes is because I got lazy with my changes. After I graduated your program, I got lazy.
Yeah, it happened.
Behaviors crept in. And I started focusing a lot on myself and thinking, well, he just needs to take care of that or himself or whatever. He's a big boy, and I was thinking, just really of myself and my own routine. And so he started acting out again.
Yeah.
And, the intimacy started going away and started not wanting sex as often. Which in the beginning, I always was like, I have a higher drive than he does. Like, he doesn't want sex. Isn't that weird? Doesn't every man? And now he pursues me, and it's a lot of fun. So he stopped pursuing me like that. And we started having tension and kind of fights again. And I started noticing in myself the same thought of emergency. See, this isn't a good relationship. You know what I mean? That was short-lived. I started going right back to that place in my mind of, oh, is this not going to work? And I got in touch with you again and was like, I think I need a tune-up. And immediately it shifted. And what I discovered in that session was even more stuff. And now that I've owned that and been responsible for that, our relationship's even better.
Yeah.
It's like the more work I do on myself, the better it gets. And if I get lazy or I start blaming, or not wanting to be responsible for a part of my life, something happens. It goes downhill.
Yeah. So you're saying it's almost like a foolproof system. Like when things start, when things start getting off course and the old behaviors are coming back, you know what to do.
Yep.
That you're not at a loss anymore.
Me at the source. I can always find where my power is. And it doesn't matter if he owns his stuff. I'm going to own mine for myself and feel good and at peace. And then magically it happens for him too. It's because he's a good man. And I've had to learn to trust good men.
Yeah.
And they're different than what I thought they were. They're not hairy women.
Yeah.
They think differently, and they're good men, and they really do want us to be happy, and they really do they'll go slay dragons. You told me that, and I was like, it's a little over the top. Well, I asked him once. I always challenge what you say by asking him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, so would you just do anything for me and our daughter's happiness? Well, duh. I mean, it was just like a no-brainer. Of course, like, you're my life. Why wouldn't, if you're not happy, life isn't good. And so when I trust that and I own my stuff, he's just more than willing to be there and show up and be everything I need him to be.
So you have to be the one that's happy on the inside first.
Yep.
And when you're happy on the inside and you're not blaming him, and which actually allows you to accept him and approve of him as who he is, you're no longer trying to change him, then that's when you really see him step up. But when you're blaming him and wanting him to be the one to make you happy, that's where you see all those bad behaviors that before you wanted to think, oh, that's all him and he needs to sort that out.
Yeah. And I think before I did this work, I think he kind of gave up.
Oh.
I was never happy. And what I've discovered about myself is even when I have what I want, there's always the next thing that I want. So when I actually created happiness for myself and took responsibility for that on a moment by moment, day by day basis, it's like he felt like he wasn't failing. Because he thought he was failing because I was never happy and it was never good enough. And so he shut down and gave up. But now that he sees that I am happy, he actually, he puffs up. He looks better, like he's lost weight. He's looking really good to me, And I've never been more attracted to him in my life. And he puffs up when I'm happy.
Wow.
And so when I own my own happiness, he's like, okay, it's my job that you have a spark in your eye. And I know it's my job, but I like it that he cares so much and that he's willing to do things that make me happy.
Of course. And so, McCall, You've just done amazing in taking these concepts and running with them and applying them in your marriage. And you're really seeing the results, which is so clear. And thank you for just showing up and being so transparent and willing to share your story and the struggles and the things you had to go through and where you are now. And I also wanted to point out that you know, your marriage, it's not like things are perfect all the time, and that you never have challenges or struggles or things that come up in your marriage. It's just you have that relationship with yourself now, and it's no longer an emergency, and you can navigate those challenges so much easier.
Yeah.
And you have a man who's stepping up with you because you're taking the lead and finding your happiness in yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So anything that you want to say in parting, or that you really want our viewers to know, either about your journey or about the relationship course, or just anything else you want to say in wrapping up?
Yeah. Well, thanks for everybody's generous listening, and you, Karen,
Yeah.
because I get a new life. I got a new life. I got a new marriage, and I didn't know if I could have it. I didn't know if I could have it so good, but I love it. Like, I love my life. I love my marriage.
Yeah.
So it's so great to share because it reinforces it for me. And what I want to share is that I've learned things with you, Karen, that I think everybody should know. Like, I wish I was taught this just growing up. I feel like it's such a life skill. It's so fundamental to just making life work. And I can't wait to give this to my daughters and my sons. I can't wait to share it with my friends, you know, to keep sending you people. And for people watching, I really want every woman on the planet to have this. For you and your men, and your kids, you know, and your marriages and your families. So if you're on the fence or if you don't know much about it, look inside of yourself to give that gift to yourself. I want to encourage women that they can have the marriage they want, and if they're with a good man, you know, I mean, their mind will be blown what's available to them. So I just want to give women the courage to put themselves in the program, and I know they won't be disappointed.
Thank you so much, McCall. Your story is so inspiring, and I know how hard you've worked. And I want our viewers to know that McCall really took the work to heart, and she wanted to do the work, and she wanted to change, because as you heard her say, this isn't easy, but it doesn't have to be hard. It's just hard work to go in and find those things we haven't been wanting to see. And McCall, just without your willingness to go there and really take the material and run with it and apply it in your life, then it's really because of you that you're where you were at. And it was such an honor, and continues to be an honor, to share this with you and help you to see a new way. And so if there's anyone watching, if you've been watching our videos or part of the group for a little bit, or you're new and you're curious, wow, I want a new life. I want a new marriage with my husband and the person that I'm with, and I want to know how to do this for myself. I want a relationship with myself. I want to be happy. I just need to be shown how. That's exactly what we do at A New Life Center in our relationship course. So if you're ready to take that dive and see a new way, then private message me, and we'll set up a free 1-hour breakthrough call where we will see what's working, what's not working, where you want to be, and how you can get there. And McCall is amazing, but she is just another woman like you and I, and it's in you to be able to do this and give yourself this gift. So if you're ready to learn how, then I'm right here, ready to walk beside you and teach you how. So again, McCall, thank you so much for being here today and sharing so openly. I know that you will help a lot of women just by being who you are and being willing to share your story.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.